Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. What's going on out there? It's a little damp, a little. I wouldn't say it's cold, but it's definitely cool. And we are having an unseasonably cool and wet spring, early summer, which I'm not complaining since it can get sub-Saharan here pretty quickly. So I'm okay with it, but it's an odd weather pattern. What's happening, what's going on out there in there. It's another day here on 15 Minutes of Flame, and I'm just waiting for the YouTube stream to kick in so that we can all be here together in one place. Um, the man has arrived. Come on, let's go. Make it happen. Come on, come on. You can do it. It's right there. There's your opportunity. Come on, let's go. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, this guy right here. He seldom misses a show, right? He seldom misses a show. He is like clockwork. Last night, when I left, I went out for a couple hours last night, and when I left, I feed the birds out on the porch. I feed the hummingbirds some sugar water, and I have a bird feeder for the sparrows, the swallows, the sparrows, and they've got a family of doves that come out and hang out and feast on the feed. So last night I had the door open to the deck, and Rosie was sitting there very intently, looking at the birds. She was very intent. And I came home last night and found a bird without a head on the floor. And then I didn't see the head, but Jasper was playing soccer with the bird head later. Yeah, that was you. Yes. He was involved in some kind of weird Mayan kind of ritual with the bird head. Yes, they were getting. See, cats they're wild. They're primal. That's the nature of cats. They're not like us. Let's see what's going on over in Chatlandia. What's happening over there? We got Paulette and Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you. There's Jenny. And there's Michael. What's going on, Michael? The lovely and talented Ani Brito. Hello, hello. There's Justice. There's Darcy. What's going on? I haven't seen Charles lately. Hope he's okay. I know I'm a little bit heretical for him sometimes. So that can be, the philosophical discord is a big piece. And we're going to get into some of that today. And a very interesting story emerging out of South Bend, Indiana, where Mayor Pete Buttigieg is embattled. And I mean embattled. This guy's got issues, serious issues. But before we go down that rabbit hole, there are a few other items of business to take care of. Just yesterday, the response to yesterday's show was really great. Got a lot of comments here on YouTube, and a few more over on the 15-minute side, and some really, really superb comments. And one of them was penned by Ellis, if I'm not mistaken, and the comment was the narrative yesterday was, why do some people wake up and some people don't? What is that thing inside of us that is a switch for some, and for others they can't flip that switch? What is it? What is that switch? Because there is a switch. And Ellis said that he believed that we were genetically modified hundreds of thousands of years ago to make us more docile. And I would say that that's probably true. That's probably true. And some slip through the cracks. And so there are people who have genetic switches who slip through the cracks, that we aren't supposed to be this way. That we're not supposed to kind of wake up, right? That wasn't part of the program, so to speak. But it happened, and we've got a bunch of crazy free radicals running around. But it's really funny now because radicalism has changed. Everything is upside down. Back in the '60s, the conservatives basically were I wouldn't say that they were the ruling class, but we could say they were the ruling class. Clearly, they were the majority narrative, or it was the narrative of the majority. It was the philosophical default in a lot of ways, because that's where the United States and most of the world was kind of emerging from. Although the world was very different in terms of, post-war development. It was very, very different in England after the war, and France after the war, than it is in the United States, because the United States wasn't touched by war. And we didn't have, rows and rows of buildings exploded and bombed out, and we didn't have kind of new ideologies and new ways of doing things. After the war, basically Europe began to turn socialist. I mean, hardcore socialist programs. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was less industry because of what happened during the war. And so this whole idea of capitalism was sort of turned down a bit. And of course, most of Europe had become socialist anyway, due to the fact that the Russians had captured so much territory and ground during World War II. It was a huge land grab, massive, massive land grab. So how Europe developed and how the United States developed after the war, very, very different, extremely, extremely. Here in this country, of course, manufacturing, industrialization took off, shot out like a cannon. Not so much in Europe. And so the two models, or the two continents, began to really diverge in terms of how they were going to manage people and the population and development. But out of that war experience, the United States was quite conservative. And so in the '60s, what you had is you had the free radicals, or the radicals that came in and turned everything upside down. A lot of that was programming. A lot of this stuff does not happen organically. Synthetic, it's astroturfed. We've gone down the MK Ultra rabbit hole. I saw a really interesting documentary, Shakur's half-brother, about drugs in the United States and how drugs have been always part of the program, going back to the Collins family and their distribution of heroin through the Dutch East India Trading Company and the British Navy and all that good stuff. And they made a fortune off of it. And the Collins family is one of the Illuminati families. There's a whole list of them. I think it's about 13 or 14, and they are definitely one of them. Big players in the Ivy League from Skull and Bones. So, anyway, now we're at a time where the narrative has flipped, and it is the radicals who are the mainstream, proposing radical ideas, radical ideologies. And when I say radical ideology, it's not the same kind of radical ideology that existed back in the 1960s. The radical ideologies now are far-reaching and have really profound and planet-altering conditions hardwired into them. One of the things I've talked about is that transgender is a small gap between humanism, or being a human, and transhumanism. That's what it's set up for. It's what transgenderism is set up for. It's about the augmentation of the human body and getting people's heads wrapped around that not only do they not have to be a male or a female, but they don't even have to be human. That this idea of being a human is antiquated, and that we can stretch out and, due to science, really redefine what it is to be a human. And that is, when you think about it from a physical standpoint, that's kind of frightening. Because one of the things that, well, it's not just one, but some of the things that would include would be hybridization and taking on genes or portions of various animals. This is something that's already taking place. I mean, if you read the Schneider stuff, from his time down in Roswell, it'll curl your toes. And not Roswell, Dulce. And if you ever listen to Schneider stuff, you gotta listen to it. You gotta find it. I used to play a little bit of it on my old show back over on Blog Talk. And essentially, Phil Schneider was this guy who was part of kind of a Delta Force group, and he was connected with the Dulce base in New Mexico, and it was his position there. His job was to guard. And apparently, there are all these different levels that you can descend down into with Dulce, and the deeper you go into that base, the creepier it gets. And you know, and finally you get down into this hall of horrors down at the very bottom, where they have these human. Somehow, Geraldo Rivera slipped in and got on that elevator. Geraldo Rivera is actually down there. Believe it or not, that's what I've heard. He's lucky to be alive, of course. So Phil Schneider some aliens, some great aliens, who were teaching scientists some stuff on super advanced was being given by one of these gray aliens, and he had a sidearm as being a gray alien immediately threat, and so he basically sliced that into his firefight. And a bunch of, I think all the scientists anyway, that's where it's headed. It's not just, but it won't be just kind of the hybrid, because they had all these chimeras. Like, you can see all these chimeras down. They were doing experiments on humans and animals, and basically patching them together. This is right out of the island of Dr. Moreau, which takes us back to Atlantis, where that stuff was taken place. But there's more, of course. There's the technological side of it as well. You could be able to patch in certain parts of wearable tech, although the wearable tech would be subdermal, more than likely. Or you could have some kind of physical augmentation. Your hands, like hands that had fingers that were 10 inches long, that allowed you to do really weird things. I mean, I think that's kind of the whole transgender thing is just it's like that for years now. And I've been telling people that the next thing that was coming was the transgender tip. And I talked about this 9 years ago, before it became on vogue. Started to talk about it. I said, look, this is where this is going. This is the next thing that's coming. It's going to be big. And it's going to be the next phase, the transhuman phase. As a result of this collapse, that's what today's show is about. It's about collapse. And I want to briefly or quickly go through. Before I do, just have a few little things to take care of here. There's the chart of the moment. That's what's happening today. Of course, as we start the show, as always, Cancer is on the ascendant and Mars is right there. So I'm going to be very dramatic Leo. So the drama the oppositions between Pluto and interesting opposition. So there's actually something that I'm going to talk about that again, it's fascinating, and it speaks to the system that's collapsing. It is collapsing before our very eyes. Let's see what else we have. We got that Venus. We might have some more solid ground in terms of agreements, relating contracts, and it's a little fuzzy right now. Their moon is high straight front 843 here on the midheaven in Aries. Also part of it is part of that T-square now, isn't it? Yep. Moon Pluto. Moon Saturn square, Moon Mars square, Moon Mercury square. It's a lot of really forceful energy. As the day moves on, watch out. Just be aware.
Your emotional output. Be aware.
If you have to blow off some steam, well,
Find out to do
your best buddy or your significant other.
It can be
very intense when it comes to getting focused around a particular idea, event, some kind of that has emotion running through it. It echoes obsession.
There's an obsessive there.
North Korea, well, that didn't happen, did it? He was supposed to send in troops to Venezuela. That didn't happen, did it? He was supposed to retaliate against. That didn't happen. To 3 different wars. So the wily
Gemini, wily sun,
emerge. It's a sleepy sun. But yeah, man, this is going to be an interesting day. A lot of emotion, a lot of intensity. You can channel it though. Right? Intensity is not bad. Emotion isn't bad. Anger isn't bad. Anger for a long time. Anger can be very cathartic. Really, very important element. People friend. It's blind. But anger is a very social condition. Not be able to express. I have a personal story about that. So one time I was in therapy with a significant person in my life, and we were in therapy for trying to salvage a relationship. And I can be fairly passionate, whatever. That therapy, so therapist kind of just dial it down. So I did. I dialed it down a little bit. Thinking about okay, well, let's play within the, sort of the agreement here. I don't want to trigger this person. Also the outcome is, hey, can we figure out how to work better together? And if I have to smooth my edge a little bit, maybe that'll be worth it, right? That'll be worth it. So that went on for a while. Change the scene. Probably about 6 months later. Different issues. And I got emotional. Turned the volume up a little bit. Not crazy. And then the same, sort of declaration of I can't deal with the anger got brought up by the therapist. And I don't think that he's being angry. He was being talking about. He was wow. This is amazing. Somebody actually got what I was channeling. Clearly and cleanly kind of articulate. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's part of the social or truncate their emotional response because they want to get along or they want to have an outcome that is more harmonious, or they don't want conflict. I don't think people generally want conflict. I think by and large people generally want to get along, although I think that that's changing now because again we're being socially engineered. So I think that's what happens. But if people really want to be free and get out of the cage, they've got to face some of that stuff. And therapy can be a really good dojo for it. So, anyway, there's some crises happening. I'm gonna kind of go around to these various crises right now and try to touch in on some of them. One of the things we got ball of confusion. What's that about? Oh, I think we're there. We're good, right? Hi, I sound a little choppy. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes they just... You can all go over to the 15 side. Let me change my settings here a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Try that. Yeah, on the 15-minute side, things are, I guess, going pretty well. So, where was I? Oh, okay. So let me get, hopefully, if you go over to the 15 minutes of flame side, you can get this broadcast without any interruption or any buffering. And I've worked this out to the best of my ability. I'm probably going to have to get a new computer that can handle. I mean, Macs are pretty good, but they're not as fast as some of the PCs. All right, here, let's go to South Bend, Indiana, okay, where Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, is having a serious crisis. So I'm going to play this video for you, and then we're gonna talk about it. Okay, here we go.
At an emotional town hall last night, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg heard from angry constituents after police-involved shooting left a black man dead last week.
We have tried but not succeeded to increase diversity in the police department, and we need help.
Y'all got racism inside of your police department. How are we supposed to trust this? I am raising a 7-year-old grandson that when he sees the police, he is afraid. That is not what's supposed to happen.
Racial tensions flared last week after a white South Bend police officer shot and killed a black man who was allegedly holding a knife. The officer was wearing a body camera, but it was not turned on.
If anyone who is on patrol is shown to be a racist or to do something racist in a way that is substantiated, that is their last day on the street.
Buttigieg dropped off the campaign trail after the shooting last week.
I just think it's my job. I don't know if it's smart or not. I don't know if it's strategic or not. But it's my city.
Did you just ask me if Black Lives Matter?
Yes, we want to hear you say it.
Of course, Black Lives Matter.
Now fire your cars!
Seen the otherwise cerebral, unflappable mayor show a little emotion there, as we saw in that clip. A little bit of anger, a little bit of confusion, and of sadness. So this moment is really a test for him, and it's really sort of exposing, how he would operate should he win the presidency in a similar crisis.
So my question is, are you really
everything they did was
you care for
everything
the
they
black?
did was wrong.
Or
So why is it still there?
Be the president?
I got.
This is not
That
about
is my brother.
Everything's about that. Bullshit.
It's about that.
I got one more time.
This is my home too.
Okay,
No, it's
so
not.
do
You
care
came back
for the
from
black
D.C. to run for mayor.
What are we going to do about it?
What we gonna do? What is y'all gonna do?
Everything.
I'm just talking. We gotta show us. Give us proof that you can really do something about it.
I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
You running for president?
But if
You truly running for president and you want black people to vote for you?
But if it
You running for president and you want black people to vote for you? That's a downfall. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. You running for president and you want black people to support you and vote for you. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
Not his niece. Not me. You don't.
I'm not asking for your vote.
You ain't gonna get it either.
This is
So, okay, so the screen has gone to black, and I don't know why that is. Unfortunately. Well, give it a moment or two. I apologize. There is a weird lag between signals today, and because I can see me, and if you go over to the 15-minute side, it's gone black over there too. I don't know what's happening. Let's see, maybe I'll come back on here. Let's go back to live and see what happens here. And hopefully I get back on the screen. Come on, screen. There I am. Okay. So there's weird signal loss, weird signal time today. I apologize, because I was still seeing that video on YouTube, and usually if that video is on YouTube, then it's a different reality here. So anyway, when I get my $50,000 studio, $100,000 studio, it'll all be great. In the meantime, we piece it together. Right? We piece it together. So there's more going on, and I apologize again for the delay. But you saw what happened with Buttigieg. Let me respond to that video for a minute. First of all, I think Black Lives Matter is kind of a random mob. Okay, and I feel like they were dispatched to his city in order to raise holy hell, and I think he's got a problem on his hands. And the problem is twofold. Number one, I don't think black voters can relate to him. By the way, he won with 8% of the vote for mayor. 8% of the vote. I think he has a problem with black voters. And number two, I think he has, and I know some people are going to disagree with me on this, and some people will agree. I think he's got a moral problem. I think he has a real moral problem. Now, so that video was part of a public access TV show, and there was a discussion that took place after that with E. Michael Jones and Graylin Watkins, and this is apparently a show that gets aired, on a fairly frequent basis in South Bend. And Graylin Watkins is a pastor. Of course, you all know who E. Michael Jones is. And the fellow in the middle is the moderator. And they talked about, it's about a half-an-hour show. And I thought about playing the show mostly in its entirety, because there's some things in there that are important. Now, there are two things that really stood out for me with that video or that interview. Number one was that there was another event in South Bend that happened a night after that. And it was basically a shootout at a bar called Nick's or Nicky's, and 10 guys wound up going to the hospital. And you think about that scene for a moment. Of course, they're black, right? So-called black, African American, and it's not just them in the emergency room or the emergency ward, but their families. I mean, the scene was nuts, apparently. And that guy, Graylin Watkins, went down there to see if he could help. He's a pastor. It's what he does. And they were this close to violence because there were cops there as well. And they'd already had the event where the guy who brandished a knife got shot by a cop. You never bring a knife to a gunfight. That's what they say. But the underlying current there being that both this Graylin Watkins fellow and E. Michael Jones are religious is that the spirit of violence had been unleashed in the city. That had been that it was now kind of almost like a sirocco, a demon wind that was sweeping through the city. And sometimes that does happen. It does happen. And these kinds of demonic portals, for lack of a better term, open up. And where was Pete Buttigieg? He was back out on the campaign trail. He wasn't there. And the other thing that came out of this was that in E. Michael Jones, what his response is going to be, that the city has a moral problem. And that what Pete Buttigieg is engaging in is immoral in his eyes. And how can he have a moral stance around the conflict and the disparity and the angst and the fear and the rage and all these things that came up in the wake of the shooting? How can he have a moral response when he himself does not have any moral ground to stand on? So this is an interesting concept, and one that I think bears some scrutiny. If you can somehow disengage yourself from your programming that this is theoretically judgmental, there's some truth to that. You cannot show up in a place where a certain type of authority is required unless you have the moral authority to back it up. And the moral authority to back it up is not, I think, negotiable. I think it's negotiable. And you may disagree with me on this, but I think you're now seeing cracks in Pete Buttigieg's system, in his spirit. And this is what E. Michael Jones is pointing out. And Graylin Watkins, on the other hand, on the other side, is actually in agreement with E. Michael Jones. So I think there's the bigger question here is, this clash of what we consider to be moral versus immoral, and why a certain group attaches their values to their version of morality versus, this is what's happening on the border right now. People think that what's happening on the border is immoral. And some people say, well, it's not moral enough. And I'm going to get into a few more examples of this. So I wanted to we don't have a lot of time left. I want to kind of burn through this, and I hope the signal's better. But I wanted to bring this up. This is kind of another strange event, and I think this is endemic of where things are going and the breakdown that we're gonna be facing. You're gonna start to see people snap, crackle, and pop. Okay, people are very close to the breaking point, and the reason why is because a certain type of morality or a certain type of philosophy or lifestyle is being programmed, marketed, psychically driven, and pushed on people. And people are getting less and less comfortable with this. You can't, it's like I could say that in the past 3 months, when I watch a commercial or I watch something on TV, the volume has been turned up with what I would consider to be kind of aberrant sorts of situations in commercials. Aberrant, strange. It's gone from, well, hey, let's have women at the forefront, to let's have interracial relationships at the forefront, to let's have gay and lesbian relationships at the forefront, to let's have gay, lesbian, mixed relationships at the forefront, to now they're bringing in the TG factor. And it's all happened really, really quickly because they want to ramp people up. They want to wind them up and ramp them up. it's twofold, right? Number one, it's like they're going to put things in the face of a demographic that is still around. There's baby boomers, post-baby boomers. They want to put that in their face. Here, take this. Number two, they want to program younger people to think that it's okay, right? To sign off on that, sign off on the dotted line. And so there's this weird kind of frisson, right? It's a frisson that represents both programming and poking the bear at the same time, okay? So I want to bring this up and show this to you. So this took place in Spokane, Washington. Now apparently the protesters here is a group of mothers. They were not into the drag queen story hour at the local library. About 500 of them showed up. Unfortunately, they do not have signs at the same quality as Black Lives Matter. That's pretty apparent. Maybe they can contract Black Lives Matter out to get better signs. But this event that they were protesting was surrounded by snipers. Snipers. These are mothers, okay? They're mothers, and snipers freaking surrounded their event. Is this America? Is this the America that we grew up with? And I know that that's not even a real America. There's a lot of falsity and glamour attached to that version as well. You know, and maybe there were snipers. They might have been at Kent State. Okay, you see how the tables have turned? You see how they've turned? Those are mothers, and they're protesting over the fact that they don't want their kids to be subject to, for all what is intent and purpose. The intent and purpose behind Drag Queen Story Hour is grooming. They're grooming these kids. They're grooming these kids, and it's a nationwide network and effort to get inside of our kids' heads and make it all seem really cool. And when you push back on it, right? When you push back on it, what you get is the rhetoric, like the soft rhetoric I got from the therapist. Oh, you're hateful. Oh, you know, you're homophobe, whatever. No, there's a third option here. The third option is, can't we just let the kids be kids? Let them fucking be kids. Pardon me. But just let them be kids. You know, do we need to have the RuPaul army come in and start reading to our kids? I don't think so. And so when people push back, then what happens? They call in the frickin'... apparently now, the next time they're going to have one of these things, the FBI is going to be there. What's going to happen next? National Guard? I'm telling you. 9:10 Central Standard Time. This is not going to end well. This is not going to end well. You're gonna see one of these drag queens. Something bad is going to happen. And I'm not promoting it. I'm not marketing it. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just seeing into the future. And I'm pretty good at that. I've got a fairly decent track record. Not always right, but I've got pretty good hunches. And I can tell you right now, based on the evidence that I'm seeing, this is not going to end well. And once that does happen, once one of the drag queens suffers serious injuries or even death, you're gonna see riots. You're gonna see people on the streets. It's not gonna end well. Then you're gonna have, and if a gun is involved, have gun control issues, gun rights, hate laws. I mean, it's just not gonna end well. But this is where it's going. This is where it's headed, and it's not just that. Right? There are other vectors involved here. Let me go over to the Oregon State Senate. That was a picture from yesterday. The Oregon State Senate, it's empty. You know why it's empty? Because a number of the senators have walked out. Because they don't want to be able to give the state the numbers so that they can run their cap and trade bill through the Senate. I'm going to read you something. So they've split. They've gone to Idaho. I'm going to try to get through this pretty quickly. So this is Kim Thatcher. Kim Thatcher is one of the 11 GOP reps that left Oregon. This is their side of the story. It's from Reddit. We've had a lot of fun today, but this is a serious post. Senator Kim Thatcher, by the way, a great lady, obviously doing her best to stay out of harm's way. She's agreed to let some of us help to keep her contact with her people, maintain a proper narrative of why these senators are doing what they are doing. She sent me what amounts to a daily diary entry, for lack of a better term, to share with those that support the effort. These are her unedited words for you to read and hear, so I'm going to read them to you. It's day 2. I'm one of the 11 Republican state senators who has left the state in order to deny a quorum to the tyrannical Democrats who have a supermajority and are willing to go to great lengths to ensure passage of their extreme agenda. I thought you might like to know what we are up against here in Oregon. Actually, I'm not here in Oregon. I've had to leave the state since the governor has authorized state police to round us up and bring us back to the Capitol. That's a police state. Additionally, starting today, the Senate president is planning to fine each of us $500 a day for each session we deny the supermajority Democrats a quorum. Reporters have stalked my home, and police came to my house just this morning to pay me a visit in case I need a ride to the state capitol, as if that's what's keeping me away. The leftist organization, Our Oregon, has made large ad buys against 3 of us, including myself. The Democrats are threatening community projects in our districts. I'm also a small business owner who works on public projects, so I'm sure I feel their wrath there as well. Part of the job, I guess. What's really rich, though, is that our governor, Kate Brown, orchestrated a walkout of Senate Democrats in 2001 when she was the Senate Democrat leader over the Republican redistricting plan. By the way, I think our state is still paying the price for letting them get their way on that one. So it's okay if the Democrats can walk out. But when the Republicans walk out, or the conservatives walk out, it's not okay. Anyway, in 2001, she told the media that the Democrat walkout was very appropriate, and that under certain circumstances, it's fair to say we would use all tools available to us. Now, in 2019, Kate Brown to media, after Republicans walk out over an irreversible and extreme bill that will kill our state, it is absolutely unacceptable that the Senate Republicans would turn their back on their constituents. They need to return and do the jobs they're elected to do. Hypocrisy? And guess what? The state Senate Republicans, under certain circumstances, it's fair to say we will use all tools available to us. But this walkout is not only about the cap and trade bill, or as we lovingly refer to it as the cap and crunch bill. They passed a $2.5 billion hidden sales tax. Hello? Gross receipts tax. When we have a record amount of revenue. So they have a record amount of revenue, and they want to put a tax in. This tax is reportedly to help schools, will actually be going to plug the giant holes in our public pension liabilities. So we want a PERS reform. We walked the day before the vote was scheduled on the gross receipts tax. We were working closely with a Democrat who bucks her party all the time, but still has to be careful. Since her party agreed to do meaningful PERS reform, she agreed to vote for the bill. And the D's agreed to kill the gun control bill and the forced vaccination bill going through at that time. So they're playing a leverage game with each other. And reset the cap and trade bill and sit down with Republicans in good faith efforts to improve the bill. We promise to return and not walk out the rest of the legislative session, which is over July 1st. We returned after 5 days. The day we came back, they passed the tax bill before our revenue projections came out. Our state has so much revenue, in fact, that it triggered our state's taxpayer kicker law, where the state returns revenue to taxpayers that exceed projections by a certain percent. More on this later. The hidden sales tax has made people understandably angry, and they are wanting to collect signatures to get it on the ballot so it can hopefully be overturned. So the Democrats have decided to preemptively tilt the outcome of this potential referendum in their favor. They set the date of this election to January 2020, where there are notoriously low voter turnouts. They also granted themselves the power to circumvent the normal process for creating ballot titles. By allowing themselves to write the ballot title and description, the children will suffer unless you make corporations pay their fair share, with verbiage that will catch the unaware. Now back to the kicker. It will likely be over $1 billion, averaging over $300 per taxpayer. So if you're a taxpayer in Oregon, you get $300 back because your state's making so much money because it's selling so much marijuana and so much wine is doing fine, right? True to form, the Democrats want to steal this money because, as you know, there's never an end to the good government can do with other people's money. Meanwhile, regarding the reset on HB 2020, the Captain Crunch bill, there have been no Republican amendments accepted after over 100 different amendments have been proposed by various people. The Joint Carbon Committee, that is the actual name of it, not the Joint CO2 or Climate Change Committee, but whatever, scheduled many hearings, adopted a couple of amendments, and the bill flew through the committee process across the House floors. It was scheduled to land on the Senate floor yesterday. After spending all day Wednesday trying to negotiate changes, it was clear they were removable, so we left the state. So they're not negotiating at all. They just want to ram their thing through. If we stay out of Salem, other bills will die as well. Check this one out. The California-style clean diesel bill won't be able to register and operate any diesels built prior to 2007. The vote manipulation bill for the hidden sales tax, the driver's license bills, driver's license for illegals bill, and the bills they had previously agreed to kill, the gun control bill, and the forced vaccination bill. They're all in there. So what they're doing, if they stay away long enough, this stuff dies. I'm in blank for the moment. Governor Blank has stated that no Oregon state senators are welcome here. I believe he would back that up by using his law enforcement to help Governor Brown get her way on the draconian agenda being forced down our throats in Oregon. This is a really, really important stand. And I read this because a good friend of mine asked me to get into it and talk about it. There you go. There you go. The Democrats, the people who have the super quorum, are not interested in negotiating. They don't want to talk. They just want to ram shit through in secret, right? Get their way. And when they wanted to sit down and talk, and they had some sort of gentleman's agreement to do this, they reneged on their agreement and they forced things through anyway. At that point, they were like, we're done. We have no other recourse. No other recourse but to leave. That's their only leverage. And maybe that's the moral of the story. Earlier, I was looking at some of the comments from yesterday's show. And who was it? Somebody said, well, why don't we just leave these platforms? I think that's ultimately what we're going to have to do. As much as I enjoy streaming on YouTube, so you guys like the chat and everything, at some point, you're going to have to kind of probably buckle up and just come over to 15 Minutes of Flame, because at some point I'm going to be probably done with YouTube. I'm already kind of moving away from Facebook. I have a group on Facebook. It's the 11th House group, which is fine for now. But my personal posts are going to really diminish. You're just not going to see a whole lot of that. And I think ultimately that's what we're going to have to do. We probably have to walk away from these systems. And really, if we really wanted to change the world, we wanted to change what's going on here in this country, all we have to do is just not go to work for a month. Don't go to work, don't go to the stores, don't buy anything, just unplug. Refuse to participate. So I'm not doing this. We're done. We're done. We don't like where this is going. We don't like what, where your programming is. We don't like where the psychic driving is going. We don't like the agendas. We're done. We're done. And we're checking out for a while. 30 days, 45 days, get 25% of the population, 30% of the population. It's huge. It's huge. What do you think people would do? What do you think the authorities would do? I've talked about this before. If you want to change the world, do nothing. That's ultimately the best course of action. Just remove from everything for a limited number of time. You want us to come back to the store and purchase? You want us to come back and drive our cars? You want us to come back to work and work for 3 jobs a week, that equal 1 full-time job? Well, let's talk. Let's have a discussion about what that's going to look like, right? That's how you stop it. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. And what we're going to see is more and more tension, and we're going to see more and more breakdown. And it's just starting. You're just starting to see it now. The edges are starting to fray, and the system is starting to shake, rattle, and roll. And you're going to see people over the course of the next few months just get tired of it all. And that's where it will get sketchy and potentially quite dangerous. Pete Buttigieg, good luck. I think your presidential candidacy is over. It's over. I think you can pack it in now. Because wait till you get to the debates. You will get savaged. Savaged by your own party. The piranhas that will be up on stage with you. Wait till Cory Booker gets a hold of you. Wait till Kamala Harris gets a hold of you. I bet he's loving that. He's looking forward to that confrontation. Anyway, let me check in with you guys and see where you're at. Let's see what we got going on the YouTube side of things. See how that's working out. Let's see what we got going on over here. I'm done. Oh, here we go. We're good. We're good. We're good. Okay, we're good. Excellent. 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 Okay, stream's happening. It's happening. And I'm glad we were able to sort that out. And again, I apologize for the turgidity, the digital turgidity. what was that guy? The TV show Max Headroom. I was Max Headroom in there for a while. That's what was going on. All right, I'm out of here. Hey, look, stay the course. You know, there's gonna be a chapter after the one we're in now. This is not a great chapter. But there's going to be another one after that. And you got to stay ready for that. That's going to be an important part of the next evolution of our experience, of our process, of our history. And you want to be around for it because that's going to be really important. That's the reset. And it's going to be the most monumental time in the history of this planet. So stay in the game and be a part of the party. And that's going to be the real landing party. All right. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have yourself a great day. Ciao for now.